Hello everyone, we're going to take a look here at the exercises from Futato's lessons 13 and 14. Lesson 13 is the construct relationship for plurals, and then lesson 14 is looking at cal, perfect, and imperfect verbs in the weak roots. So we'll start here. The assignment begins with section C, and I know this is down low here, but what I'm going to do is try to hide the answers so that we can actually, deal with what we're looking at instead of having the answers right next to us. So we're going to translate here. We've got Shanat ha-milchamot ha-tova. Now, Shanat, this is a couple clues to look for when you're looking at a word, couple clues that it might be in construct. One clue, if it's a two-syllable word and the first syllable has a reduced vowel, that's a really good indication that you've got a construct. The way that Hebrew syllables work is usually you have an accent on the final syllable, and in Hebrew, when you've got two syllables and the accent is on the final syllable, if the previous syllable is open, it wants a long vowel there. So when you see a shavah in that syllable, that's a really good indication that you've got construct. Now, on this particular word, another good indication is the patak tav. This is a great indicator of a feminine singular construct. Not all patak tav endings indicate feminine singular construct, but it's a good sign, especially when you see these two together. When you see a patak tav at the end of the word, just try transferring that into a kametz hey and see if that then gives you a word that you're familiar with. So for shanat, we're going to change patak tav to a kametz hey and we're going to get shana. Now shana is a word that we're familiar with. This is the word for year in Hebrew. So what we've got here is year of. Now an important thing to remember is that we have to determine the definiteness of this word. Usually we would do that by looking at this word and seeing if we can find either a definite article or some sort of possessive suffix, or if this word were a proper noun, then those would all be situations in which it is definite. But because it's a construct form, we actually have to look at its absolute to determine its definiteness. So we're going to look for one of those three things in the absolute. Either a definite article, which we happen to have, a possessive suffix, or the fact that it's a proper noun. Since we have a definite article on the absolute, we know that the absolute is definite. Therefore, the construct is definite. That's important to remember. The construct here is definite. Shana, or shanat, is definite. The year of what? The year of the battles. Ha-milchamot is milchma, I should say milchama, in the plural, with a definite article on the front. Shanat ha-milchamot ha-tova. Now we have to determine which word ha-tova is modifying. Remember, an adjective will agree with its noun, the noun that it's modifying. It will agree in both gender and number. Okay? Now, it won't always agree in definiteness. If it doesn't agree in definiteness, that's a good sign that we're looking at a predicative adjective. But if it does agree in definiteness, it's probably attributive. Here, the adjective is feminine singular, ha-tova. Ha-milchamot is feminine plural, so ha-tova can't be modifying ha-milchamot. Now, when we look at shanat, we remember that the patak tav is an indication of feminine singular absolute. So ha-tova matches shanat in gender and number. They're both feminine singular. Does ha-tova match shanat in definiteness? You might think at the beginning that they don't match in definiteness because you see a definite article on ha-tova, and you don't see one on or on shanat. But remember, we've already determined that the definiteness of shanat is based on the definiteness of its absolute, hamilchamot. And since the absolute, hamilchamot, is definite, shanat is also definite. And so hatovah not only matches shanat in gender and number, but it also matches in definiteness. So we have an attributive adjective here. The way that we would translate this is we would first come up with our construction translation, the year of the battles, and then we will take our adjective, the good, and now we'll insert it into our translation where appropriate. Since hatovah modifies shanat, we're going to say the good year of the battles. As we scroll down, we can see the good year of the battles is the correct translation. All right, so now looking at number 2, we've got shanat, hamilchamot, hatovot. The difference here is that the adjective is now feminine plural. We go from hatovah to hatovot. Since it's feminine plural and everything else is the same, this adjective now agrees with hamilchamot in gender and number. It no longer agrees with shanat because shanat is still feminine singular, and hatovot is now feminine plural. So now hatovot is going to modify hamilchamot. So what we get here for our translation is we have still the year of the battles, because we've still got a definite absolute, and so our construct is still definite, the year of the battles, and then we're going to insert our adjective where appropriate. Since hatovah is modifying hamilchamot, we're going to translate this as the year of the good battles. All right, as we look at that, we see that as our translation, the year of the good battles. All right, looking at number 3 here, we've got a new sentence, B'nai hamelech hagadol. All right, so our first word here, B'nai, the first thing I notice is the serei yod. Now, I also see that I've got a 2-syllable word with a shavah in the first syllable. That's just like what I talked about up here. We've got a 2-syllable word and a shavah in the first syllable. That's a good indication that you're looking at a construct form. Furthermore, I see a serei yod ending. Serei yod is, I would say always, but I'm always hesitant to say always. Serei yod is, I can think of some exceptions when it occurs within a word. But when it occurs on the end of a word, I'm going to just say 98% of the time, this is a masculine plural construct. All right, so if this is construct, that construct is also indicated by the makef preposition here. Makef is another sign that we may have a construct relationship. So I have to figure out what is B'nai if it's in construct here. What is its lexical form? This can be difficult sometimes to reverse engineer because you don't often learn the construct forms with the vocabulary as you learn them. So let's just play around with it a little bit. We know that the serei yod is a construct ending, so let's just take that off. And we're left with beit shavah noon. Now we know that when a construct has well, let's approach it from this direction. A shavah is a half vowel. It's not a full vowel. And so a word shavah can't be the only vowel that a word has. A hatef vowel is also a half vowel. So you need a full vowel. I'm not saying a long vowel or a medium vowel. You can have a short vowel, but a short vowel is still a full vowel. Here with the shavah and with the hatef vowels, we have half vowels. And so I know that the lexical form can't be beit shavah noon. This has to have a full vowel in its lexical form. Now at this point, the options are numerous. This could be Patak, Segel, Kamet, Sere, Holam, Shurik. It could be Kibbutz. It could be any number of actual full vowels. But if I just think of a bait and a noon, and I try to think of vocabulary that I've had where I get a bait and a noon in the lexical form, there aren't that many options. Now, at this point, hopefully you've recognized that this is the word bane. I should say ben, I guess, would be the construct form in the singular, I think. But bane is going to be. Let's actually take a look here and see. I want to find out if when you learn this. No, there's no way you've. Let's see here. I want to see in the vocabulary if he's given you previous words. No. I thought that maybe once you learn the construct, he would give you the construct form with previous words. We learned Ben. Descendant in chapter 2. So I'm certain he didn't give you the construct form this early. Yeah, all you get is Bane. Okay. So, whoops. What that means then is, we're on 13. So what that means then is when we've got Bane here, Beit Sere Noon, that is our masculine singular absolute form. If we want the masculine singular construct form, we get Beit Segel Noon. But when we go into the masculine plural construct form, we're going to get Beit Shava Noon Sere Yod. So this word is Bane, which means son. It's in the masculine plural construct, so it means sons of, and we still need to determine the definiteness of this word. So in order to determine the definiteness of a construct word, you look at its absolute. The absolute is Hamelech. Hamelech is definite, as indicated by the definite article, so Bane, or B'nai, is going to be definite. So now we get the sons of the king. Then we have Hagadol. This is our adjective. Again, the adjective has to agree with its noun in both gender and number. So Hagadol here is masculine singular. The adjective never lies. There's no ending, and so we know it's masculine singular. We've got B'nai, which is masculine plural, and we've got Hamelech, which is masculine singular. So Hagadol is going to match Hamelech. So to translate this out, I would first start with my construct translation, the sons of the king, and then insert your adjective where appropriate. Since Hagadol matches Hamelech, they're both definite. It's going to be an attributive adjective. We're going to get the sons of the good king. And as we scroll up, or I'm sorry, the great king. Tov would be good. Hatov would be the good king. Hagadol, the great king. All right, the sons of the great king. Number 4, we've got the same sentence, except Hagadol now becomes Hagedolim. We've gone from masculine singular in our adjective to masculine plural. All right, so if Hamelech was masculine singular and B'nai was masculine plural, Hagadol now matches B'nai. So again, we'll translate through the same way. Remember, B'nai is still definite because its absolute is definite. The sons of the king. Now we insert our adjective where appropriate. Since this is masculine plural and it's definite and our noun is definite, we have an attributive adjective. The great sons of the king. Scrolling down, we see the great sons of the king. All right, number 5, we've got mishpachat, ha-nevi'im, ha-chachama. Mishpachat, we don't have a shavah in the first syllable. We have a silent shavah closing the first syllable, but this is a 3-syllable word. Okay, so we don't have the same clue that we had up here and up here, that we've got a construct, but we do have the patak tav ending. And patak tav ending is a great indication that we have a feminine singular construct. Again, not always, but often when you see a patak tav suffix, that's going to be a feminine singular construct. All right, if this is construct, what is our absolute? Well, the very next word has an article, so it can't be construct. This must be our absolute. That word is ha-nevi'im. It is definite, therefore the construct is definite. If mishpachat is feminine construct, the way we find the lexical form, which is feminine singular absolute, is we just change this patak tav back into a kametz hey, and that will usually get it for us. So mishpachat becomes mishpacha. Mishpacha is a word we're familiar with. This is the feminine singular noun for family. So since our absolute is definite, our construct is definite, we get the family of the prophets, and now we have our adjective ha-chachama. Ha-chachama is feminine singular, and so we have to figure out which word it modifies. Nevi'im is masculine plural, but mishpachat is feminine singular. So ha-chachama matches mishpachat. Again, it's attributive because we've got a definite article on ha-chachama, and mishpachat is also definite. So we've got an attributive adjective. Again, we'll translate the construct phrase, the family of the prophets, and then we'll add our adjective where appropriate. Since ha-chachama modifies mishpachat, we will say the wise family of the prophets. Scrolling up, we get the wise family of the prophets. All right, let's look at number 6. The difference here is we've got mishpachat ha-nevi'im, but then ha-chachama becomes ha-chachamim. We go from feminine singular on the adjective to masculine plural. What do you know? Our construct was feminine singular, but our absolute was masculine plural. So ha-chachama now modifies ha-nevi'im. So again, we'll translate our construct phrase, the family of the prophets, and then we'll add our adjective where appropriate. Since ha-chachama is definite and ha-nevi'im are definite, this is an attributive adjective. The family of the wise prophets. The family of the wise prophets. All right, number 7, we've got Eved Ha'em. Eved is a segulate noun, and often segulate nouns do not change their spelling between absolute and construct. This has to do with the fact that Eved, as a segulate, is often accented on the first syllable, and so when you've got the first syllable of a 2-syllable word accented, when this accent gets shifted to the next word, so basically Eved loses its accent, it doesn't really change the spelling because it didn't have a strong ultima accent anyways, and so it doesn't really throw off the vowels. That's good news in the fact that you're going to recognize the vowels, it's going to look familiar. It's bad news in the sense that you're not always going to know whether it's construct or absolute. Again, this situation gives us a makef, which is a great indication of a construct relationship. Another indication that this is in construct is we've got two nouns right next to each other. Often, two nouns right next to each other don't make sense as absolutes. You'll often need to translate the first one as a construct in order to make sense of the two nouns together. So here we've got Evid. Evid is masculine singular, I think. Let's double check that because the segolets look masculine singular, but many segolets, like for example, Eretz, many segolets are actually feminine singular. So let's go to our lexicon and let's look at Evid. Iron. Pull this down. All right, Evid. Now it doesn't tell me here, which if it doesn't tell me feminine singular, that makes me think it's what it looks like, which would be masculine singular. But just to be sure, let's go to the vocabulary in lesson 12, and let's see if it tells us there. All right, Evid, again, it doesn't tell us, so I'm going to assume that means that it's masculine singular. Now, I have one more place to check. That's my actual lexicon. Now, I can't remember if elementary Hebrew requires a lexicon or not. I think it does, and I think it's the concise. Actually, it'd just be abbreviated Chalet. This is the concise version of this one, the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament. So let's go into the one that you would have, the concise Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon, and let's look for Evid. So we're going to start with ayin, and now we want ayin beit dalet. So here we have ayin beit through ayin beit dalet. So let's click there. We're just going to go down until we find it. Ayin beit dalet, but this is a verb form. Ayin beit dalet with segels, but there's actually two entries. Let's click on the first one. Here we get slave. This is what we're looking for. And usually a lexicon is going to tell us right next to the word whether it is feminine or singular. So here we've got Evid, the root, the lexical form, 780 times. Then we get Aved, which is, I guess, an alternative form. Suffixed, it looks like this, Avdo. In the plural, it looks like Evadim. Now that there makes it look to me like this is masculine because it's got a masculine plural ending. But again, avot has what looks like a feminine plural ending, but it's still masculine. Unfortunately, this one doesn't tell us straight up whether or not Evid is masculine. So let me go to my my bigger lexicon, the one of which yours is a concise version. And let me go find Evid here. So I've got ayin. I'm looking for ayin beit dalet. I've got ayin to ayin beit hey, which is farther than ayin beit dalet. We'll just go down here. Ayin beit, ayin beit, ayin beit beit, ayin beit dalet. Here we've got our two entries again for Evid. Let me click on the first one. So here Evid, this says 800 times, which is different than what we saw before, so that's interesting. Gives me a bunch of information, but still, I guess it's only going to tell me the gender if it's not what I would expect. Nowhere here do I see an indication of gender other than the actual forms. So we're going to go on the safe assumption, I assume, that in 13, that's 12, with the safe assumption that in 13C, number 7, that Evid is masculine singular. All right? Now, the makef here and the fact that it's right next to another noun especially since this one doesn't have an article and this one does. All of this points to a construct relationship. So again, we've got Eved, which means servant or slave. We want to check the definiteness of Eved by checking its absolute. Ha'em is a definite. It has the definite article here. And so we have the servant of the mother. The servant of the mother. And then we've got our adjective. Chazak, the strong one. So now we have to determine what Chazak is modifying. Is it modifying Eved, a masculine singular noun, or is it modifying Ha'em? Now I know that this doesn't have a suffix, but you should recognize aim as mother, which is feminine. So is it modifying a masculine singular noun or a feminine singular noun? Well, Chazak, the adjective never lies. It has no suffix, so it's masculine singular. So that means it's going to modify masculine singular Eved. So we translate our construct phrase, the servant of the mother, and then we insert our adjective where appropriate. Since Chazak is definite and Eved is definite, this is attributive. The strong servant of the mother. All right. Number 8, we've got Sefer HaKohen HaKadosh. All right, Sefer. This is another Seglet. I almost said geminate. This is another Seglet noun. It's accented on the first syllable, Sefer, so its construct form and its absolute form are going to be identical. Okay. Sefer HaKohen. Sefer has no article. Kohen does, and we've got the makef. All of this points to construct. If we translate this as a construct, we check the absolute for our definiteness, which is affirmed, and so we get the book or the scroll of the priest, the Holy One. All right. So we need to figure out the gender of Sefer. Sefer looks masculine. It doesn't have a suffix, but it's a seglet, so those can be tricky. Let's go ahead and look up Sefer in our lexicon. And we have no indication there that it is feminine, so that would tell me it's probably masculine. What if we go look at the chapter? Does that tell us any more information? Sefer? Nope. So it looks like it's masculine. All right. And then just to be sure, because I'm not sure why they're putting you in this situation, I'm going to go check my big lexicon. Looking for Samik Pei, Samik Mem, Samik Noon, Samik Ayin, Samik Pei. Alright, so here I've got Sefer. I need Pei Resh. Samik Pei Lamed, Samik Pei Resh. Alright, so let me go down. Safar. This is the verb. I want the noun, so I'm going to be in this category. Sefer, number 1. All right. And no indication there. What about Sefer number 2? What does that mean? Okay, that's just a different word altogether. All right, it looks like this is masculine singular, which is going to present an interesting situation for us. Let's go back to lesson 13, practice, section C. All right, so 8. Our adjective is masculine singular. Sefer is masculine singular, it seems, and Kohen is masculine singular. So which one does HaKodesh modify? Well, grammatically, it could modify either one. So we then have to ask, which one makes more sense in context? Well, we have a very limited context here. We've only got 3 words. Is holy more likely to modify book or scroll or priest? I mean, both of those are things that are commonly described as holy. So either one would work. I would say that because a priest is seen as holy generally, it's maybe redundant to call the priest holy. So for that reason, I might prefer to translate HaKadosh as modifying Sefer. So that would be the holy book or scroll of the priest. But you could also say the book or scroll of the holy priest, because this is attributive. Both nouns are definite and the adjective is definite. So let's see which one he gives us. Okay, he says both are possible and context will clarify. So there you go. All right, number 9, we've got Zahav Ha'ir Ha-Tahor. All right, Zahav, again, this is a situation where we've got a Shavah in the first syllable of a 2-syllable word. That's a great indication of a construct. When we look at the next word, we see that it has an article and Zahav does not. So that's another indication that we've got 2 nouns here. Second one has the article, first one doesn't. So that's another indication we may have a construct relationship. And then we've got an adjective that's definite. Because the adjective it has the definite article and both nouns are also definite, it will be an attributive relationship. Zahav is presumably masculine singular. Its definiteness is determined by ha'ir, so we have the gold of the city. Now the adjective is masculine singular. The adjective never lies. There's no suffix, so it's masculine singular. Both of these look masculine singular, but ha'ir is actually one of those weird ones where even though the plural form is arim, hirik yod mem, ha'ir is actually feminine. All right, so that's something that you'll need to keep in mind, that ir, even though it looks masculine, and even in the plural it looks masculine, arim is the plural. I believe it has a patak. It's ayin patak resh. You lose the yod. The hirik yod shifts to patak. Ayin patak resh hirik yod mem is the plural form. But even that is going to be feminine plural. All right, so let's go back to number 9. Since ha'ir is feminine singular, it cannot be modified by ha-tahor, which is masculine singular. So ha-tahor modifies zahav. We get the pure gold of the city. All right, then we've got number 10 here. We get divrei Torat Adonai Ha-Tovim. All right, so looking at our first word here, divrei. The first thing I notice is the segel yod ending. That tells me this is almost certainly going to be a construct noun, which is masculine plural. Okay, masculine plural construct noun. Now, we may have a construct chain. We have to figure out how many links are in that chain. The chain continues until we hit an absolute. Our next word is torat. Torat has a patak tav ending, which is another indication of construct. So we have a second construct here. These can go on. You can have multiple constructs in a construct chain. We still have not hit our absolute. What about the next word? Yahweh, Adonai, the Lord. All right, this one here doesn't have the definite article, But the following word, which does, hatovim, is an adjective. So unless this adjective is substantival, our absolute has to be a noun, and Adonai is the last noun in this chain. Again, the definiteness of divrei and Torat depend on the definiteness of their absolute, which is Adonai or Yahweh here. Because Yahweh is a proper noun, it's a personal name, because it's a proper noun, it is definite by default. It doesn't need an article to be definite. So all three words in this construct chain are definite. Now, let's figure out what these words are. Divrei has a sere yod suffix. If we take that off, we get dalit, hirik, beit, shava, resh. Now, the final syllable of a Hebrew word cannot just have a shava. So this shava must be some other letter. It could be patak, segel, it could be sere, it could be kametz, could be a lot of different things. But if we ignore the vowels and we just look at the consonants, dalit, beit, resh. What words have we learned that have dalit, beit, resh as their root? We've learned the word davar, okay? So davar, you may wonder, how in the world do we get a hirik in davar? Well, the reason why we get a hirik is because we have had to reduce both comets, the comets under the dalit and the comets under the beit, have both been reduced to a shava. And when you have two shavas consecutively at the beginning of a word, the first shava restores itself in the form of a hirik. So that's why we get a hirik here. All right, so we get divrei is going to be masculine plural construct of davar, which means word or message. So we get the words of the instruction or law of Adonai or Yahweh. The words of the law of Yahweh, or the words of the instruction of Yahweh. And then we get ha tovim. Well, ha is definite. All of these words are definite, so we're going to have an attributive relationship. We have to figure out which of these three words ha tovim modifies. Ha tovim is masculine plural, so it must modify a masculine plural. Adonai is masculine singular, Torat is feminine singular, Divrei is masculine plural. So hatovim modifies divrei. Translating this together, we get the good words of the law of the Lord. All right, that's section C. Let's take a look at the assignment here. We're going to do C, D, and G. So let's look at D here. All right, we'll go more quickly through these. There's not as much going on. We're just looking at how kol gets used depending on what it's modifying. So when we have kol and a definite plural, kol in the plural means all. This is important English grammar to know as well. The word all in English is a plural. All modifies plural nouns in English. So here we would have all of the roads, or you could just say all the roads. Kol ha-derachim. All right? When kol modifies a singular noun that's definite, this is going to be, so here we have all of the roads. Here we have all of the road. Well, we wouldn't say all of the road in English because all is plural and road is singular. This is very important to understand. So when we have kol, definite article, singular noun, we're going to translate kol as whole, the whole road, rather than all of the road. The whole road. Now, technically, when you say all of the road, that does work in English, because when you say all of, this is a partitive genitive, you're saying all the parts of the road, and parts is what is actually plural there. So if you could say I ate all of my breakfast, that means I ate all the parts of my breakfast. I didn't have multiple breakfasts, but I ate all of the parts of. That's why you could make all work. But I want you to get in the habit here of when you have kol plus a definite article on a singular noun, I want you to use the whole, whatever the noun is, the whole road. I ate my whole breakfast as opposed to I ate all of my breakfast. All right, then the third situation, when you have kol plus a singular noun without the article, that's going to be every road or each road. Okay? So we use every or each for indefinite singular nouns in English. We use all for plural nouns in English. When they're definite, it makes sense to say all of the roads. But when they're singular, we want to say the whole road. All right, so number 4, we have all of, definite article, singular noun, so this is going to be every or each. Oh, I'm sorry, all of the singular noun is going to be whole. All right, all of singular noun without the article is going to be every or each. So kol hamizbeach is going to be all of the altar or the whole altar. Number 5, kol ha'elim, all of the gods. Here we've got kol plus a definite article plus a plural noun. But then number 6, we have kol plus an indefinite singular noun. And that's going to be translated as every or each house. All right, and then we'll look at G here. G is more translation. We'll just do the longest one. Lo tiz v'chu, actually lo tiz b'chu, zivchei Adonai tahorim al mizbeach tameh. All right, so starting at the beginning, we get lo, which is our negative particle. That means whatever this next word is, we're going to negate it in our English translation somehow. So what's our next word? Well, we're usually going to expect a verb to be the first thing we see, unless it's negated. So if this is a verb, if we expect a verb, that will help us parse it out. So, how many letters are we supposed to have in a verbal root? 3. How many do we have? We have 5. All right? What are our prefixes? What are our suffixes? Is shurik ever used as a suffix? All the time. Okay. Well, that gets rid of 1. We got to get rid of 2. What about chet shurik? That would get rid of both of these, and we'd be left with 3 letters. Is chet shurik ever used as a suffix? No. All right. So chet must be part of the root. All right. Well, if we still need to get rid of a letter, and we've gotten rid of our suffix, maybe we've got a prefix we need to get rid of. So is tav ever used as a prefix for a verb? Yeah, in the imperfect, tav gets used as a prefix frequently. Okay, what sort of conjugation has a tav prefix and a shurik suffix? Well, there's one. That's going to be, especially a tav hirik, that's going to be a kal imperfect second person plural, second person masculine plural. So right here we've got a kal imperfect second person masculine plural of zayin beit chet. What verb is zayin beit chet the root of? Well, that is zavach. Zavach means he slaughtered or he sacrificed in the kal plural 3ms. And the cal imperfect to MP, it's going to mean you will slaughter or you will sacrifice. Now remember, we have to negate that because of this negative particle. So now it means you will not slaughter or you will not sacrifice. All right, you will not slaughter or you will not sacrifice what? Zivchei Adonai. You will not slaughter or sacrifice sacrifices of the Lord. Serayod here indicates a masculine plural construct. Sacrifices of the Lord. Then we have an adjective. Tehorim. This adjective is masculine plural. Which word does it modify? Well, Adonai is masculine singular. Zivchei is masculine plural. There is no article here. So we don't have, I think there should be an article here because the translation tells me that it's attributive. But you won't always have an article on the adjective when it's attributive. It does come after its noun, so good enough. Let's just play around and ask ourselves, what would this be if it were predicative? Because the way it's structured here, I mean, the only thing that could make it more clearly predicative, I suppose, is if it came before zivchei. But if this were predicative, how would we translate it? Well, it would be difficult because you actually have two predicates here then. You will not sacrifice. And then you almost have to put a period here. The sacrifices of the Lord are clean or pure. So you almost have two different clauses. You will not sacrifice. You could put like a key in here. You will not sacrifice, for the sacrifices of the Lord are pure. But you don't have a key here. So it doesn't make good sense to make this predicative, even though it kind of looks like it should be because it lacks the article. This kind of has to be translated attributively. You will not sacrifice the clean sacrifices of the Lord. Where will you not sacrifice them? Upon Mizbeach, an altar, Tameh, unclean. You will not sacrifice them upon an unclean altar. All right. Hopefully that's clear for you, makes sense. Let's take a look here now at lesson 14. The exercises there. Mo, while I'm pulling these up, do you have any questions or any topics you want to cover?
You are currently the only person in this conference.
All right, Mo's mic may not be working, but if so, feel free to type it in the chat or whatever else. If you do get the mic working, you can just jump in anytime. All right, so we're doing B, E, and F, and G. All right, so let's look at B. Now again, this chapter, this lesson, cal perfect and imperfect weak verbs. So we're going to look at how the weaknesses of these roots affect the morphology of the conjugations. All right, so number one, we've got chata. Chata is a third aleph verb. And so what happens with the third aleph, when an aleph is closing a syllable, it quiesces, which means it virtually has no effect. It's as if it weren't even there. And since that now makes this an open syllable, the patak is going to lengthen to a kametz, just like you see in a third hey verb. All right, so that's the difference here between a strong verb and a weak verb, is a strong verb would be kamets patach, but with the third aleph you get kamets kamets. All right. So that means that this is going to be a cal perfect 3ms form of chata. This is just the lexical form. Number 2, we've got avartem. Our tem suffix here is a good indication that we have a perfect conjugation. And since we have a perfect conjugation, now I forget, I'm teaching you guys in first semester, and then I'm teaching another class in what is essentially the second semester. So I have to remember, you guys have only seen cal so far. So we don't really need to worry about the pattern. It will always be cal. But our conjugation here is perfect. So we've got a cal perfect. This tem suffix is a 2MP. So in what way does this differ from a regular strong verb in the cal perfect 2MP? Well, the strong verbs, this is a 1 guttural, and gutturals don't often like to have just the simple shavah, and so this has a hatef shavah. This has a hatef patach here. That's the only way that it differs from like katal or something like that. All right, so Mo says that he'd like to discuss more about 1 noon and third hay. I think that's the lesson this week. So yeah, once we get through this exercise, we'll go through the 1 noon and the third hay. All right, number 3, we've got na-avod. Na-avod is a 1 guttural. Yes, Mo, go ahead. You can go ahead, Mo. I see the... Oh, go ahead. I see that your mic's unmuted, but I'm not hearing you. Okay, well, I'll keep going, but feel free to jump in. Yes, I see the comment. We will go through the 1 noon and the third haze before we close the conference, because I know that's this week's lesson, and so we'll kind of talk a little bit about how. Well, I guess you may not have a ton of time to hang around and wait for that, so let's just go ahead and jump in there. Go ahead. Okay, I see you're muted now, so I'll go in here and talk a little bit about the 1 noon and the third haze. So what you have to recognize about the 1 noon is when a noon closes a syllable. So when it has a silent shavah, it doesn't like to be right next to another consonant. So where you'll see that is the preposition men that we've had. I'm sure we've had the preposition men, right? Prepositions. We've got to have had that. There we go. Prepositions. All right, men. When men gets right next to another consonant, that noon basically will have a silent shavah. It does not want to be squished between its vowel, its preceding vowel, and that next consonant. It's a little squeamish, it gets a little bit scared, and so it runs and it hides inside the next letter, okay? There's just a way of kind of thinking about what's happening. When men closes a syllable, or when men has a silent shavah, it's going to assimilate into the next letter. We've seen that with the min preposition. Well, the same type of thing is going to happen with the 1 noon verbs in the imperfect conjugation. Because in the imperfect conjugation, you're going to get prefixes. You're going to get something before the noon, and so the noon ends up closing that syllable, and then whatever letter follows the noon's going to want to assimilate into. So let's take a look at how that works. We've got nafal, okay? But when we add the yod-heric prefix that we would normally add in the imperfect, this would then become yin fall. And that noon would have a silent shavah just like the kof does here. Yin fall. Well, that's just like the min preposition. At that point, the noon is going to assimilate into R2, and your R2 is going to get a doggish forte. And you can see what that looks like right here. Yip pole. Okay? So anytime you have a prefix conjugation, so that's going to be the imperfect, that's going to be the jussive, the cohortative, and I don't even think we've gotten to those yet. Yeah, we haven't even done like infinitive. So basically the imperfect conjugation, because it has a prefix, that's going to force the noon to close the prefix syllable, just like R1 does in katal. It closes the prefix syllable. And then you get a new syllable with R2. Well, when that happens with the noon here, the noon doesn't want to close the syllable. And so it's just going to jump into the next letter. And basically what you get is you get a reduplication of that letter. You get a doubling of the letter. So instead of yin pole, it becomes yip pole. Okay? This happens in English as well. All right, so I'm just going to use some of this space over here to show you some examples. Let me get rid of these things. All right, so let's think about the word adequate. All right, if something is not adequate, we would call it inadequate. If something is, let's say, appropriate, if it's not appropriate, we would call it inappropriate. We use this in prefix to negate a word, all right? But there are times even in English where this in doesn't want to be smushed between two syllables like this. For example, if something is not legal, we don't say illegal. Instead, the noon assimilates into the L and we say illegal. If something is modest, we would call it modest, but if it's not modest, we would say it is immodest. Okay, we don't say it's immodest. That in is going to assimilate into the next word, and we get immodest. All right, same thing for regular. If something is not regular, we don't say irregular. That noon, that N, would assimilate into the next letter, and we would say irregular. Okay? So this is a phenomenon that takes place in English as well. So don't be shocked when you see it here in Hebrew, because you've already seen it in Hebrew in the min preposition. You see it here again in the one noons. Now, the only time that this will cause us some real issues is when we have a noun or a verb that is doubly weak. So not only would it have a weak one noon letter, it also is going to have a weak second, like a guttural here. Okay, when we've got a doubly weak verb where the first letter is a noon and the second letter is a guttural, that's going to cause problems because the noon can't assimilate into the second letter because the second letter can't take a guttural. In that case, we expect maybe one of three things to happen. Either the noon will just stay there, It won't assimilate at all because it can't assimilate at all. So if instead of nafal we had something like na'al with an I in here, na'al. If it can't assimilate, then we might just get yin all, and the noon might just stay there like the kof does in yiktol. Another thing that might happen is the noon might drop out altogether, and we might get some sort of lengthening to compensate. So maybe we get a hirik goes to a sere in the prefix or something like that. A third thing that might happen is the noon might drop out, and you might not get a guttural, you won't get a dagesh, and you might not get any lengthening. It might just be like yet all or something like that. So there are a few different things that can happen if we have a guttural in R2 that can cause some frustrations. But anytime you see a dagesh forte right after the prefix, it's good to think one noon. Okay? It's good to think one noon when you see a dagesh right after the prefix. All right, so that's the main thing you need to know about the one noon at this point, is that it's going to assimilate into R2 if possible. Now the verb lakach, this is one of the Hebrew orphans, okay? Lakach, its parents died long ago, it's all on its own, it's an orphan. So the one noon family decides, we're going to adopt lakach into our family. All right, so it behaves, it learns to act like a one noon. And so you'll see situations like this where you get yekach instead of yilkach. All right, that has to do with the fact that the lamed is a liquid and the noon is also, the noon is a liquid. It's actually what we call a nasal, but same type of family, so they act similarly here. There are also times when the lamed will, like in the perfect, you're not going to have to worry about this because you don't have that prefix crushing the lamed here. But same thing for the noon. You don't really have to worry about irregularities in the perfect because, the noon isn't getting crushed. But whenever you see a kof and a chet together in a verb, just think lakach, even if you don't see the lamed in there, okay? If you ever try to parse out a verb and you end up with a root, nun, kof, chet, it's probably lakach. All right, so then we got third haze, okay? So third haze, again, one of three things is going to happen. You're either going to see the hay, like you do in the Cal Perfect 3MS, or there's going to be some sort of suffix added to the hay. And there are two types of suffixes that can be added, and what happens to the hay depends on what type of suffix you add. So let me pull this back up here real quick. So for the third hay, the first situation is no suffix, in which case you will still see the hay. All right, let's do it this way. We'll just do bullet points here instead of columns. All right, so whoops. All right, so if you've got no suffix, you'll still see the hay. If you have a consonantal suffix, which basically means the suffix begins with a consonant, then the hay is going to shift to a hirik yod. Okay? We see that over here in the perfect when we add the tav kamet suffix to the kamet's hey. That kamet's hey is going to shift to hirik yod. And I should really say kamet's hey here will shift to hirik yod rather than just hey. All right, so when you add a vocalic suffix, as in I should say tav kametz, just tav, or tav hirik yod, in all of these situations, the kametz hey shifts to hirik yod. Okay, so that's the second situation, is a consonantal suffix. In the third situation, when you have a vocalic suffix, which basically means the suffix begins with a vowel, in that case, the kamet's hey is going to shift to basically, I'm not sure where my slashed 0 is, but basically nothing, okay, null. It just drops out altogether. You can see that here. Now, technically, there's this irregularity with 3FS, and I'll explain that. I'll come back to that. But basically, you're either going to keep the hey, the kamet's hey is going to shift to a hirik yod for a consonantal suffix, or for a vocalic suffix, it's going to drop out altogether. Okay, you see here it's dropped out altogether. No hey, no hirik yod, it's just gone. All right, the hirik yod comes back in with the consonantal suffixes tem, ten, and nu as well. And then we can even go into the imperfect. Same thing's going to happen. With no suffix, you keep the hey. Now it shifts to a segel hey in the imperfect. That's important to know. But when you add the vocalic suffix e, yiktol, tiktol, tiktol, tiktali, hirik yod, when you add the hirik yod suffix even in the imperfect, the kamet's hey drops off altogether. All right. When you have no suffix, again, hey reappears, segel hey in the imperfect. When you add a vocalic suffix, like the shurik here, drops out altogether. When you add a consonantal suffix, in the imperfect, instead of hirik yod, it becomes segel yod. Okay? Now there's a reason for that we'll see when we get to the hifil pattern. But same sort of a thing, okay? Let's talk about this weird situation with third feminine singular, okay? Technically, this is sort of like it has no choice. It kind of has to go through this weird process. So let's look at Galah. And I'm just going to change all of this to SBL Hebrew, and we're going to go like size 24 just so it's easy to see. All right, so we've got Galah. Now, in the third feminine singular, we want to add a kamet's hey suffix to Galah. Well, if we did that, we would end up with, if we follow the rules, this would be a vocalic suffix, so we would drop the kamet's hey, and then we would add the kamet's hey. Okay? You see the problem here. What we end up with is we end up with a form that's identical to the 3MS. And so it's not going to work to follow the vocalic suffix rule here, because we would drop the kamet's hey, but we would just add a kamet's hey back on there. And so what happens in the 3FS instead, and this will happen in other places, there is a very close relationship between the letters hey and tav. And you can think of tav as a hardened hay. We've seen this in the feminine. You know, the comet's hay ending for feminine singular, you get comet's hay. And then for the feminine singular construct, you get patak tav. And then for the feminine plural construct or absolute, you get holem vav tav. So there's a connection between hay and tav. Well, what happens here in the 3FS of the perfect is, and this will also happen other places when you need to add suffixes to a hay. For the most part, in these conjugations, when you need to add suffixes, the hay will either shift to a hieroc yod before a consonant, or it'll drop out altogether before a vowel. But another thing that it can do is the hay will harden, basically the comet's hay, this will harden into a tav. And then, once it hardens into a tav, then you can add your comet's hay ending. And that's what we get over here with the 3FS form. You get ga, la, ta. Okay? So that's basically what's going on with the third haze. You're getting a preview right now. Like, we'll be able to fill this out more later on. Man, let me see if I can real quick find... There's a chart I would like to find here. 1 second. Let me see what I can do. Go into Dropbox. Let's go Hebrew. Let's go. That is not the one I want. Let's go. All right, here we go. Now I want to find. Let's just search for. Man, this is going to be hard because I want third. Oops. I want third hay endings. I probably need to actually move this. I'm going to have to do a little bit of digging here, but it's a very, very helpful chart, so that's why I'm spending the time on it. Hebrew verbs in the cow stem, probably. Week. Oh boy. I mean, I think it'll be somewhere in here. Let's do this. Hold on 1 second. My headphones just died. So let me try a different source here. There we go. Okay. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller here. Allow for scrolling. All right. Third hay. Sorry, I need to just pull this page out because I refer to it every year, and every year I have trouble finding it. So let's go instead to cal imperative. I know you guys haven't seen the imperative yet, but when I pull this, it will be helpful next semester. Shucks. Not there. Count with syntax, drive stems, summary verb charts. There we go. All right, I found it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pull this page out. Oh, of course, it's the very last page. It would be. Okay. So I'm going to extract this. I'm going to save this as, we'll save it as third hey endings for different conjugations. All right, and that way we'll be able to find it next semester when we need it more. All right, so this is just something to be aware of. In the third hey, when you're in the perfect, the masculine singular is going to end in comets hey. When you're in the imperfect, the masculine singular is going to end in segel hey. And basically, anytime you don't have a suffix on the third hey, you're going to see segel hey. So like 1CS would be, if bana is our root, he built, it would be evne, okay, rather than evna, okay? So even though that's first person. So basically, on third heys, in the perfect, when you don't have a suffix, it's going to be a comets hey. In the imperfect, when you don't have a suffix, it's going to be segel hey. In the imperative 2ms, which we'll get to later, it becomes a sere hey. In the infinitive absolute, which we'll get to later, it's often a sere hey. In the infinitive construct, it'll become a holem vav tav. And in the participle, the masculine singular participle, instead of bona, it would be boneh. So this is a chart that we'll come back to toward the end of second semester that's really going to help you sort out the third hey verbs, all right? But we'll just get a little bit of a preview of it here, and then I will revisit that later, okay? So that is basically what we're looking at with third hey and 1 noon as far as the perfect and the imperfect go. Here it talks a little bit about doubly weak, which I mentioned before. I'm trying to figure out how these are. Oh, a saw would be doubly weak because it's 1 guttural and it is third hey. But this just means you you combine the weaknesses, you combine the irregularities, all right? So that's chapter 15. Mo, I saw that before you didn't have any sound. I don't know if you can hear me now, but if you can and you have any questions, please feel free to jump in or put them in the chat. I trust that my mic is recording sound for me, so at the very least, if you can't hear, you should be able to hear when I post the video. But while I wait to see if you have any further questions, I'll run back up here to finish up exercise 14. And let's see what we did. I think we were here. Yeah, we were in section B. So let's finish that off. We were on 3, I believe. So this is a one guttural. Again, one gutturals don't like a simple shava, so it uses a hatef shava, a hatef patach here. You'll see that gutturals have a strong preference for A-class vowels, so that would explain why it chooses the hatef patach as opposed to like a hatef segel or something like that. And when that happens, the prefix vowel is going to take the corresponding short vowel. So that's why you don't have a heric prefix, which you usually have a heric prefix. This is actually, I need to look at this because this doesn't seem, could be, but seems like that should be a hatef patach. But I may be wrong about that. So anyways, that's what's going on here. The heric prefix vowel shifts to a patach to correspond to the hatef vowel. All right, so here we've got a noon prefix, which is going to indicate cal imperfect 1CP of Ahmad. Number 4 here, we've got 4 letters. What are our prefixes? What are our suffixes? Is aleph ever used as a suffix? No. Is tav ever used as a prefix? Yes. So our root then would be matzah. We've got a tav heric prefix. Really the only irregularity here is that the third aleph can't close this final syllable, and so it wants a long vowel. And in this case, it's going to prefer an A-class vowel because of the guttural over the O-class holum. All right, and then number 5, we've got chata with the cal-perfect 2MP suffix tem. So the irregularity here is just that the chet doesn't want a simple shava, so it goes with the hatef patach. All right, number 6, again, I want to look at this because I would expect a hatef patach here, but there are places where it gets a little squirrely. So let me see if he's got an example of a vod up here somewhere. So these are all one or third aleph. Where's a one guttural? Okay, I feel like that was not supposed to all be highlighted, but whatever. Let me see if I can get rid of that. No highlight. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so here we've got a mod. Okay, so I think there was supposed to be a hatef. Oh, no, okay. That is so weird. Apparently in the 2FS form, it must have to do with the fact that we're adding this heric yod to the end. So when we come down here, same thing happens. We get ta'amdu. That makes sense because what's happening here is we have to shorten, we have to reduce this syllable to make room for the new one. And in order to do that, this has to become a full syllable so it can stand on its own. Okay, so it does make sense morphologically. I just hadn't noticed that before. So I'm glad I see that. Okay, so because of the shuric, we're adding a syllable to the end, which means we have to reduce this syllable to make room for it. And since we're reducing this syllable, we now have to bump up this syllable. So we get ya-av-du. All right, so that's going to be yod prefix, shuric suffix. That's a cal-perfect 3MP form of avad. And then number 7, we've got ga'al-ah. Okay, so we've got ga'al, which is our root, and then the 3FS suffix. The real trick here is this R2 letter is a guttural, where we would usually have a shava, ga, Allah. The aleph doesn't want a vocal shava under it. It goes with the hatef patach. All right, so that's really the only difference here. This is cal-perfect 3FS of ga'al. And then number 8, we've got amartem. Again, the tem indicates a cal-perfect 2MP suffix. And that pulls the weight, the accent, all the way to the end. So usually we reduce this first vowel to a shava, but again, gutturals don't like shavas, so it goes with the hatef patach. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here. Not really. So we got B, E, F, and G, it looks like. All right, B, E, F, and G. So that's B. Go to E, parse the following. All right, so Yiz, Bach. Again, this really isn't irregular except for the fact that you've got a patak instead of a holum, but that's pretty common among imperfects. Stative imperfects also will have a patak with no real explanation other than that. But here you can see that the chet prefers an A-class vowel. So this is just Cal imperfect 3ms from Zavach. Number 2, we've got Shalachu. I don't really see... Yeah, okay, this is just combining. These aren't all irregular. This is a third guttural, but that doesn't play into any irregularity here because it doesn't require a shava or anything like that. So this just looks normal like a strong verb. This is Cal Perfect 3CP of shalach. Number 3, we've got na, sa, nu. Na, sa, nu. All right. So ordinarily, what we would have is we would have, this is, okay, so nu here is our Cal Perfect 1CP suffix. Our root is nasa. We would usually have a shava under R3 and a patach under R2, but because this aleph is closing the syllable, it quiesces, which means not only can it not hold its own vowel, or shava even, it can't even hold a silent shava. That's because it can't close this syllable. And so that's why the patak gets lengthened to a kametz. So you've got a 1CP Cal Perfect form of nasa. Number 4, we've got that same situation again. The avad doesn't want to have a shava here where it normally would. So it goes with the hatef patach, and that's why you get a patach in the prefix. But the hatef patach bulks up to a full patach in order to allow the bait syllable, which would usually be either a holum or a patach, to reduce in order to make room for the new shurik. So it's really a lot going on here, but look at it this way. Ignore the vowels altogether for a minute. You've got 5 letters. Shurik is obviously a suffix. Yod is a very common prefix. Your root is a vod. When do you have a yod prefix and a shurik suffix? That's going to be the Cal imperfect 3MP. So you can completely parse this without even looking at the vowels. Now, the vowels will be necessary later on when we're distinguishing between different patterns. So when we're looking at the Hifil pattern or the PL pattern, the vowels are going to help us there. But right now in the Cal, like, you don't even need these vowels to be able to parse this. Number 5, we've got halachtem. Again, this would normally be a shava, but Hay doesn't like a shava, so it goes with hatef patach. Number 6, malachta. This is just a strong verb. There's no irregularity here at all. Number 7, nishpot. This is shafat, a noon prefix. And again, everything is what we would expect. We do see a dagish in the pay, but that's just because we have a begad kafat letter right after a silent shava. And in that case, the begad kafat letter is going to have a dagish lene, a weak dagish. Number 8, we've got amod here. This is pretty much what we would expect, except for the fact that we would have just a simple shava here. The ayin guttural does not like a simple shava. It would normally go for a hatef patach, but because the aleph brings the segel to the party, it goes ahead and it goes with the hatef segel, just to match the aleph. All right, number 9, we've got timtsa. This is pretty much a strong verb, pretty regular, except for the fact that you've got the third aleph, which quiesces, which again, that's why you don't have a holum or a patach in your theme vowel. You end up with the long comets. And then number 10, we've got tiktolna, okay? And tiktolna is obviously regular because it's katal, which is our paradigmatic verb. So that's pretty easy. Looking at translation here, and I've got another meeting that's about to start in 1 minute. So we'll just go ahead and we'll skip the translations, and I will make those up to you. Well, no, I'll make them wait. Let's make them wait. Let's go through these real quick. All right, so let's just pick a long one, number 2 here. Again, I'm starting with the expectation of a verb. That helps me parse. I've got 4 letters. I need 3. Is Aleph ever used as a suffix? No. Is Yod ever used as a prefix? Yes. So Korah is my root. Yod Hirik is my prefix. That is with no suffix, that is a 3ms cal imperfect prefix. And so I have Yikra, meaning he will call. Who will call? Third person verb. I expect an explicit subject. The priest will call. Whom will the priest call? The priest will call et sefer ha-brit. This is interesting. The priest will call the book of the covenant. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What do you mean he's going to call the book of the covenant? In ancient societies, I guess, in the ancient world, the reading silently, that isn't so much a thing in the ancient world. When you read out loud. And that's why you use the verb to call here, because this is what you're calling out. Okay? So what you read out, you're reading out loud. So we would translate this as the priest will read the book of the covenant, livnei, so lamed preposition on b'nai, this is a construct, to the sons of the king, the wicked ones, ha-rishaim. Again, definite, these are definite, so this is attributive. We have to match our noun in gender and number, so this is masculine plural, b'nai is masculine plural. So he will read the book of the covenant, the priest will read the book of the covenant to the wicked sons of the king, or the king's wicked sons. All right, G, let's go Genesis 1:1, make it easy. Oops, that's not what I want. Let's go here. Genesis 1:1. All right. Breshit, you don't know this word yet, but this basically is, Reshit is beginning. Bait, so at a beginning, at the beginning, in the beginning. Bara Elohim, God created. Here, this is a Cal Perfect 3ms. It's kametz because of the third aleph instead of kametz patak. What did God create? Et hashemayim, so the heavens, the et haaretz, the heavens and the earth. All right, now I got to shut it down, but let me know if you have any questions. Hope you guys are doing well, and have a great weekend. Thanks so much.